of the Middle East. We're going to talk to Dr. Paul Wright, who's president of the Institute of Holy Land Studies in Jerusalem. He's going to take a fresh look for us at the biblical events, but has written a book that does that as well, which is titled Rose Then and Now, Bible Map Atlas. I've looked through it, and it is an outstanding, would be an outstanding acquisition for any Bible student, family, anybody who's a Bible scholar. It's got all kinds of great things that are so helpful for Bible study. Dr. Wright, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here. And thanks for the endorsement. I appreciate it.
Are you in Jerusalem? Where are you today?
I'm in Jerusalem, sitting in my home on part of our campus on Mount Zion, just south of the old city.
Isn't technology amazing?
Yeah.
Here's his brother who is sitting on Mount Zion in Jerusalem, and we're talking as if you were sitting here right with us. You sound sound great,
Dr. Wright. We're sitting high atop Mount Tupelo, so I don't know.
I'll visit you. You can.
I don't know where we rank. We're after Jerusalem. I would agree.
Somewhere down the list.
Somewhere down the list. But tell us about you're the president of Jerusalem University College, the Institute of Holy Land Studies. Tell us about that.
Right, we go by both names, actually. It's a school that was founded in the late 1950s by a fellow named George Douglas Young. He was the dean at the time at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. He was trying to put together a program in Israel, 6-month graduate program for folks who are going into ministry, either in schools or in churches or something else, however God calls them. Wanted them to have a first-hand look and deep understanding as to what was happening in Israel. Both then, let's say now, that was 1950s, but current events, very much was a believer in God's prophetic work, as well as the biblical storyline and how God worked with real people in a real time in a real place. It's been very successful.
For those maybe who are new Christians, or maybe people listening who are not students of the Bible, but they've always heard the expression promised land, in talking about our Holy Land, and what is the expression biblically, promised land? What is that talking about?
Two things, actually. You can pick them up in the book of Deuteronomy, one of the books of Moses. And what we tend to do is grab onto one of them and not the other one. Two things he's talking about. One is that God promises to take care of us, no matter what the situation is. I think that's very clear in the book of Deuteronomy. The landscape itself that the people of Israel were entering in was in some cases a productive land, in some cases a very difficult land. And they got all of it. And the lifestyle, the expectations, the hopes, you might say, of some of the people of Israel were rather tough based on where they were living, and others had a better go of it. And the message throughout very clearly is, regardless of the situation in life that folks have, God is promising in this land to take care, to lead, guide, and direct. The other aspect is the one that we tend to want to grab onto quicker, and that is that God promises to how shall I say it, to give and supply and provide more than we have. To me, that's a bit of a dangerous one, because it's kind of putting him in a box, and I prefer the former, that no matter what the situation in life is, and this is really the story of Israel as well, ancient and modern both, and throughout the centuries, that God is there leading, guiding, protecting, and promising to take care of.
Dr. Wright, I think it's fascinating that you guys have a university there, and this is, I think, part of what the book is meant to do for those who can't go. But I was just thinking when you're talking about that, I kind of wish early in my, I've been in the pastorate for many, many years, as well as being a journalist. I thought, wow, to go to school in the Holy Land and to see kind of firsthand. I mean, a lot of these events that we read about in the Bible are hundreds and thousands, or thousands of years in the past. But to see those kind of things with your own eyes would just be so beneficial for someone studying the Scriptures. So I'm guessing that that's what this book is meant to do. If a person can't get there physically, this book is meant, as much as any book can, to give someone kind of an eyes-on look at what we read about in the Bible.
Yeah, the book in many ways is a personal statement. It grows out of the curriculum that we have here, which is very intentional in connecting the biblical storyline, the events of the Bible, with specific places and times and cultures and so on. A very intentional, deep look. And so many of the stories that we have in the Bible can be filled out, or some of the details that are unclear start to become more clear when we're actually in place, and when we're living among a group of people who have very deep roots in this land. A lot of the cultures, the ways of life and thought as well persist. And the two, I think, are a very good look, or a very good way of helping to lead and guide as we read.
Well, the name of this book, let me just, probably should have asked this first. Rose, the R-O-S-E, Rose Then and Now, Bible Map Atlas. I think I know what you mean by that. What does Rose Then and Now refer to, though?
Well, Rose is the publisher, Rose Publishing in California, and they've done a lot of then and now books on a variety of topics. And what it means specifically is that the maps in the book, which depict biblical events, many of them have an overlay that simply puts down the political borders of the land today, helps folks make the connection between what the landscape looked like then and what the landscape or what the current event map might be now in the same place.
Okay.
Rose of Sharon.
I thought maybe it had something to do with the resurrection.
No, this is the publisher.
Okay.
Rose of Sharon, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the publisher. What do you want to? I'm going to Israel in March. Most years do that with a tour group with Christians from America and all over the world visit the Holy Land, and it is the desire of most Christians to visit there at least once in their life. Why? I mean, obviously, it's the land of Jesus, but what is so special about the Holy Land?
It is a special place. Look, on the one hand, you don't have to come. You can be saved without coming here, right? We can understand the Bible. Well,
that's not what my advertisement is,
right?
Paul. I'm trying to tell everybody that they need to come with me to the Holy Land in order to complete, their experience.
Yeah, no. It's not one of these. It's not like a house.
All right. Well, I'll change the advertisement.
But there's something. Look, there's. I believe that the authors of the Bible, and that the people who acted, who were the people that they're talking about, the ones who are doing the events on the pages of the Bible, there's a lot of intention in what they're doing. They're not accidental events. There's not just a random set of stories that the author decides to tell. There's something here very specific. And of course it's wrapped up in the plan of God, in God's revelation through them. But it's also wrapped up very much in what we might call regular mundane things, like rocks and soil and water and climate. You have images, for instance, in the book of Psalms, God is a rock. Or you have in the book of Psalms 125, verse 2, as the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people from now and forevermore. And the biblical author is not explaining what a rock is or how the mountains surround the city. When Jesus says, I'm a good shepherd, he doesn't say what a shepherd is. And so on. There's hundreds of examples like this in the Bible. The writers assumed the readers knew. They're living in a land that was theirs, belonged there.
Right.
And things that they just sort of grew up with. And it's for them it was almost intuitive, but for us it's not. Distance in time and place. And a good visit to the Holy Land, to the Promised Land, a good look with a good guide, with good preparation before we come, can be very interactive and very moving, and more than just devotionally. Can really do something to the heart and mind and soul in a way that says there's something here that's authentic. There's something here that informs the way that I read. It's been described as the land as a fifth gospel. or the entire package as now I can see in living color or in a fourth dimension. Something, we're struggling for words to describe it, but it really does change. We've had 23,000 students come through our program over the years, and I get letters all the time about how when they get back home, a lot of them are pastors, a lot of them are teachers, a lot of them go into full-time Christian ministry. And this is formative in their life and the way that they see the Bible and the way they understand who Jesus is and how is it that God became human and walked and talked and lived and breathed with us.
We're talking to Dr. Paul Wright. He spells his name W-R-I-G-H-T. He is president of Jerusalem University College, also called the Institute of Holy Land Studies. It is in Jerusalem, and he is speaking with us by phone from Jerusalem. We're honored to have Dr. Wright on the program. He has, we are discussing the book, Rose, Then and Now Bible Atlas. Dr. Wright, let me ask you this. I have a very, very hard question to ask you, okay?
Sure.
Because I don't suppose you mind talking about some of the things that are going on in the Middle East now, many of which center around the religion of Islam. So here's a question that I'm not sure I have ever heard an answer to. And I'm asking you to kind of give us some insight maybe into the mind of God. So this is totally unfair, okay? Why?
Maybe I won't give an answer either. Go ahead.
Yeah, why since 632 A.D., A.D. 632, thereabouts, when the religion of Islam arose under the leadership of Muhammad. So for 1,400 years, Islam, with some exceptions due to the Crusades, Islam has held the Holy Land. And really the last couple of hundred years, that grip has been broken somewhat. Why do you think God has allowed Islam to control most of the Holy Land for the majority of that time?
And then who's going to win Broncos v. Patriots?
I just want to hear your opinion. That's all I'm asking for.
My football team didn't even make the playoffs, so I guess I can dodge that one too.
I was trying to give you one you could answer without, I should have interrupted, but
if you ask an Israeli on the street, what one word describes you and the Jewish people over time? More often than not, the word that they're going to say is the word survivor. Survivor. And what we have is a history of a people group that goes back far before Islam. A people group that was not very big, never has been. A people group that was placed by God, Genesis chapter 12, when Abraham came in the land, and the book of Deuteronomy when Israel came back in the land after the sojourn in Egypt. A land that is thin, both in terms of dimensions and thin in terms of resources, but yet is you might say the crossroads of the Eastern Hemisphere. These are all geographical statements that can be unpacked over time. A land that is my teacher here, a guy named Jim Munson. I owe him a great debt of gratitude. Jim Munson spoke about this being a testing ground of faith. That is to say, of all of the places that the Jews could have been, this is one that, by design, you might say, or even intention, is one where we have to depend on a being greater than us to survive. And we've seen that in this land again and again and again. The last 1,400 years, that's a really long time. Islam, or countries either that are Islamic governments or more secular governments, but Islam, the main worldview, have been very dominant in the region. Before that, pagan Rome, Assyria, Babylon, you name it. Islam being one, the most recent, you might say. Islamic countries, the most recent. But it is one more example, maybe a longer one in terms of time, of all the others. As a minority in a country that has a dominant majority where the worldview of the people is very different from our own, how do we respond? And it prompts people to have to make a decision. You're either for God or you're not.